What's up, everybody? Welcome to Make Things Tiny. My name is Mick, and today's all about tiny house communities and new tiny house communities. I'm talking to Abby. Abby is the owner of Tiny Estates, which is an existing tiny house community in Pennsylvania, and then also Endeavor, which is a dealer for a tiny house manufacturer called Atomic Homes, also based in Pennsylvania. Abby's going to talk about their backstory, sort of what got them interested in tiny homes, and they're also going to talk about the new tiny house community that they have available now in Florida. So this is a really awesome video for any of you who are looking to go tiny and don't know where to put your tiny house and don't know who you should use as your builder, because Abby answers both of those questions for you, because they can build your tiny house for you and then they can also put it somewhere for you too. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear from them and to learn more about how to start your tiny house journey. Before getting into the conversation with Abby, I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, please do take time to subscribe. Helps me out so much. There's a subscribe button in the bottom corner of your screen. You can also tap the notification bell so you find out when I drop new videos. I drop new videos every single week. All right, let's get into this. Let's talk about new tiny house communities. All right, so I'm here today with Abby. Abby is the owner of Tiny Estates and Endeavor. Abby, thank you so much for being here on the channel. I'm super excited to talk to you and just have people learn about you and learn about your experience. If you don't mind just talking a little bit about what got you into tiny houses, and we'll just sort of go from there.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here and chat. I started building a tiny home after attending a jamboree in Colorado and thought, what a fun, project, not realizing what I was getting into. So that sort of spiraled into, now I have this house half done, but where do I put it? And what do we do with it? And that ended up spiraling into our first community. So we opened a park in Pennsylvania, and then subsequently South Carolina and two in Florida. And we're looking to do parks all over the country and sell custom tiny homes and the whole shebang. But it's definitely evolved from that initial this would be a fun side project to my day to day.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's a really cool way for it to sort of morph into what it is now too, like just getting your start sort of as like building it also.
Mhm.
So I think that's really cool. For those who don't know, or maybe they're not familiar with like Endeavor and like Atomic Homes, like Atomic Tiny Homes, can you talk a little bit about the company and sort of like what your role is within the company as well?
Yeah, so we started Endeavor because in the state of Pennsylvania, you can't manufacture and sell. So if you think of like
Mhm.
a Ford truck, Ford makes it and then they have a dealership that sells it. So
Right.
Endeavor is the dealership for Atomic Homes.
Hmm.
Atomic's bread and butter is live event production. And so during COVID, they were looking for something that would diversify and keep people staffed because there were no live events going on. And so they started to get into the housing game and just sort of dip their foot in the water and say, what would that look like? And we started a conversation where I was saying, we're looking to do more communities. And a big pushback we were getting was financing was really tricky for people, which makes it a lot more affordable if they can get financing. And then the second thing was scalability. And there's a ton of great builders out there, but if it takes a
Hmm.
year on their wait list to get the house, and we've got a lot now, people don't want to wait that whole time and pay for a lot that they don't have a house for, or buy a house without a place to put it and then just pay storage fees. So we can
Right.
build a house in 6 weeks. And that was very important for us to be able to roll out a product for people that they could get their hands on quickly without losing quality and then being able to finance it.
I think that's huge, and I think that is a really cool pairing, and it seems kind of essential. Wouldn't be surprised if over time you do see more sort of like companies having partnerships with people that have land, or where they can create communities. Because I think that if you have people who know nothing about tiny houses that are like, I want a tiny house, but I only want to have it if I can live in a community, and then you go to a community and they're like, well, we have a spot for you, but we have no idea where you're going to get your tiny house from. So I
Right.
think that you're sort of solving a big issue for a lot of people, which is, where do you put it? Who's going to build it? You're kind of answering all those questions for them, which is, I think, fantastic. It makes it easier for consumers.
Yeah, we want to be a one-stop shop. If you don't want to build with us, that's totally fine. But we want to
Mhm.
offer something if somebody wants custom. I mean, we license like Shay's Designs out of New Zealand, the
Mhm.
Live Connected Designs, they're out of New York. So trying to work with different people to offer different products as well, and not just like one breath of this is what you get, these are the models, but
Mhm.
allowing people to bring in a napkin sketch of their dream tiny home and then making that come to life as well.
Mhm. No, that makes sense. What types of models do you offer, and would you say there's like an overall sort of model people gravitate towards?
We're coming out with a model now that's going to have a really cute front porch and be a
Mhm.
lot wider. Traditionally, we do the 8.5, but we've then had people ask for 10 and 11.6. And I think that really accommodates a unique age range. We've seen a lot of like aging in place and
Mhm.
interest on the handicap accessibility side. And so this
Mhm.
wider model will really allow for those turning radiuses needed for wheelchairs or those who are not sure what the future looks like. The first one that we're doing is actually for a woman who's going to live on her son's land. And so this is her way of being close to family but not losing independence. And I think that will be a really cool model to be able to show people in different backgrounds, but accessibility of housing in different situations.
No, I think that's incredible. I never really thought about that in terms of like the turnaround, like clearance area that you would need versus what 8.5 feet sort of like feels like and then looks like logistically. So yeah, I could see where people would gravitate more towards the 10 foot in terms of the width of the tiny home. So yeah, that makes sense.
The mobility of tiny homes is so awesome. You know, the eight and a
Mhm.
half wide, and you can move it wherever, but most people are not backing their truck up and moving it every day. So most people don't mind if, it's a little bit wider and it gives them a little bit more space, but they stick to that 400 square feet.
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. The more people I talk to, they just want to be able to put it somewhere and just let it be there for as
Yep.
long as possible, ideally, which is why I feel like the communities are appealing to people more. So it's great to see so many like popping up. And I know that you all have like some new ones coming up available now too. Can you talk about the different communities that you have available, like the new ones that are coming out?
Yeah, so our park in Pennsylvania is Elizabethtown, which is Lancaster
Mhm.
County, and we have approval now for another 15 lots. So we're just waiting on final bids from contractors to know exactly when everything will be in infrastructure wise. We're hoping here in the next few months to have those spots available. So we do have a waiting list of just people who are interested, really more than anything, that as soon as we
Right.
have those dates, we would send out to all those folks and say, hey, there are now lots available. And then our park in Florida has 60 lots approved and ready to go. So as early as tomorrow, you could move a house in there, and that's about an hour from Tallahassee for those who are
That's
looking to
awesome.
live in Florida.
That's cool. So I guess what does the park in Florida offer versus the park in PA? Like are there different amenities or like a certain sort of like set of amenities that you offer in your parks in general?
Yeah, so traditionally the lot rent includes everything. So it's water, sewer,
Mhm.
electric, propane, internet, trash, mowing, plowing, property taxes.
Oh, that's
A
great.
lot of people like that it's that all encompassing,
Yeah.
whether you're young professional starting out or an older retiree, you can really budget because you know exactly what your payment is. We then have like laundry facilities that we're going to have hooked up for people who don't have laundry in that space. Our
Hmm.
park in PA has a small dog park, and that'll be improved with this infrastructure that's going in as well. We have a community building where people really like to do, game nights or knitting circles, and we have monthly community meetings to get feedback from those who live there. So, I think for everybody to have a sense of pride of their house, and everyone's always coming and going at their discretion. So for people to be able to gather and have a space that's got a big deck and they can have fire pits and things like that creates
Hmm.
that sense of community.
Okay, that makes sense. And what's the process like if someone's interested in moving into the Florida community? What would that sort of process look like?
Yep. So if they reach out to us at tinyestateinfo@gmail.com and just let us know, is it the PA park or the Florida park that they're interested in? We do a background check, which is really just a, criminal and financial, make sure that people are paying their bills on time.
Mhm.
We don't need social security or anything like that, just full
Okay.
name, date of birth. And then we can say, okay, you've passed the background check and send over leases for the person to review. Traditionally, it's a month to month, and they give 60 days notice of termination. So if somebody wants to be more flexible and not knowing what the future holds, 60 days and they can go elsewhere. But they have that flexibility of keeping the house there long term too, which is nice.
Okay. And do you have to have your tiny house before you can reserve your spot? Is that sort of how it works?
You don't have to. I mean, we have some people who are set on who they want to build with, and it's going to be a
Mhm.
while of a wait list, and so they just pay for the lot. We can't
Okay.
hold the spot without the person signing the lot agreement. But if they want to hold the lot and pay for an empty spot till their house is ready, they're welcome to do that.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so they can technically hold their spot or they can't hold their spot.
They're technically holding it by paying the
Okay.
lease. Whether
Okay.
their
So as
house
long
is
as they
there or
pay.
not, they're paying for the spot. Is how they're holding it. But we couldn't say, hey, we'll hold it for you and you'll start
Mhm.
paying in a year.
Mhm.
They'd start paying now, and whenever their house is ready, then it gets to move in.
Okay, cool. And if they choose to go with you, then they just pay the like the lot fee, and then they wait the 6 weeks for their tiny house to be built, or choose from one of the ones you already have.
Yep,
That sort of
exactly.
thing.
So we've got some
Okay.
homes in inventory. If they want something immediately, we could do that, have it tomorrow. Or if they want to build something, it's 6 weeks start to finish. So typically, if they want to go the lending route, they put their deposit down. When the house is done, the lender fulfills everything and we would take it and set it up. And whether they want decks or skirting or any of that, it can all be rolled into the loan.
Okay, cool. And do you see like sort of like in your experience with tiny house communities, do you find that most people are staying in your communities like long term, or sort of like what's the average sort of like length of time that they stay in the communities?
Yeah, it's hard because people ask about like the resale value and
Hmm.
how long people stay there, and it's so early in the movement that I think it's hard to
Right.
have some of that data. Most people are very long term. We've had a few people that are more transitionary, whether they're going through a divorce or they're traveling military, that we kind
Hmm.
of knew when they came that it wouldn't be the longest of things, but they would take their house with them. We've had some turnover of people saying, I've done it and I want something bigger, and they've gone a bigger tiny house, or
Okay.
they've shifted where they live. But for the most part, yeah, people seem to be going tiny and staying tiny, and I think that's a testament to the fact that it's truly a lifestyle that people want and enjoy.
Hmm. No, I think that's true. Yeah, I haven't really talked to too many people that haven't like sort of like love it and then only do it for like 6 months or so. Like I feel like it really does sort of change people's perspective on their entire lives, not just like their housing situation. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that I can see where people would just stay for a really long time, and I think that's great that you have a waiting list too. I think waiting lists sort of like prove that it's working. So I think that that's a good sign as well, too.
Yeah, it's hard with the waiting list because people say, well, how many people are before me? For
Mm,
us, it doesn't
yeah.
really work that way because, some of those people have houses and some don't. Some might pick to do something else while they're waiting. So there isn't really like an order per se. It's more of a, hey, we'll notify you as soon as there's something available. And then first come, first serve, but definitely keeping people apprised to what's happening. If somebody does give notice that they're leaving, then we would let those people know right away.
Okay. Is there anything you feel like people should know? Sort of like the people that are that are watching the video that are in the camp of like, I want to go tiny, I want to live in a community, but like I just don't know what to do at all. Like, do you think there's sort of like some like sort of like main sort of like top of mind things that people should sort of be thinking about as they sort of like decide on a builder, pick a location, that sort of thing?
I think placement is definitely a big one. So if our
Mhm.
spots in PA or in Florida are not the right location for people, we do a free feasibility study. So whether it's, hey, I just want to live in this county and you tell us that area, or specifically, hey, this is mom and dad's backyard and I want to put it here, we
Yeah.
can tell you kind of you are allowed or you aren't allowed. Maybe you need a rezone. Maybe you want to do a whole community and there's land somewhere that you want to do that. But we can run all that and say, hey, this is the restrictions that your county has or how you could get it through, and give people a better idea of how to do the tiny process.
Okay. That's awesome. I think that's great that you offer sort of like information for them, even if they don't choose you guys. So I think that that just sort of speaks to it's just like your passion for the movement in general and just wanting people to sort of land where they belong and what makes sense for them too. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I really loved the tiny home industry when I started out because it was so collaborative. There is
Hmm.
such a massive need in the housing market that there's enough business to go around for everybody, and we just
Yeah.
want to see the movement succeed. So I don't ever feel like, if somebody has questions and they don't go with us or they want to come tour a few, like that's great. However, we can help to facilitate the process for more people to go tiny, I think we'll just push
Mhm.
everything forward, and we need more zoning and legislation changes and things for this to be a movement that can really fix the housing crisis.
Yeah, no, sure. I agree. I think there's plenty of space for everybody, and it's really cool to see how willing people are just to answer questions and just help people in their tiny journey.
Yeah.
I know that for a lot of people, like just picking a builder is just like a super daunting task. Like that's really hard for them. Do you have anything to sort of like say to those people in terms of why it would make sense for them to pick sort of like Atomic and like go the route of choosing Atomic and Endeavor for their tiny house?
We really tried to hit the things that, having worked with so many builders across the country when we
Mhm.
started Tiny Estates, fixing things like, P traps that were freezing or condensation lines from mini splits that you'd have to tear out your walls to fix. And like all
Mm.
those little things we've tried to learn from and then not do in our builds, which I think is important. Getting a full home warranty so that you've got the peace of mind, whether you're in this state and you move. Or something happens, it's not like, oh, it's a Saturday at 2 a.m. Atomic's not open. Now what? You have the peace of mind when you build with Atomic, and the quality. It came actually out of a disaster relief RFP that they were
Mm.
looking to fix FEMA trailers. And so Atomic came out with a patented plywood stud that everything fits together like puzzle pieces. And that allows for much better structural integrity. So I think that the quality of tiny homes in general is something that's different than mobile homes, but then the
Right.
quality of atomic homes is really a higher standard. We want to make sure that these are going to last for people and that they're going to be an asset that they get to hold on to. And then the
Mhm.
ability to customize really lets them, whatever they've seen, whether it's a Pinterest mood board or a napkin sketch, we
Yeah.
can really then fit that aesthetic, which is important.
No, I think that's great. And I think that going above and beyond what the standards are, I think is really, really important too, because like you said, like people are, especially being on the East Coast, with PA and Florida, those are like really different climates.
Right.
So the fact that you can build for both, I think speaks to what you guys are doing. Cause I know that not every builder can build for, an East Coast climate with all of the winter, and like, making sure that the roof can sort of manage the weight from all the snow and the ice, or the West Coast, or like, it's super hot and it's dry. Like there's just a lot of different factors in the US when you're building and you're shipping all over the place. So it sounds like that you guys really have all that covered, which gives people more peace of mind, which I think that they could use a lot more peace of mind nowadays when it comes to housing and all the things that are so stressful in the process for people too.
Yeah, and you don't want them to regret their choice. It might be a little bit higher price tag, but with financing, I think that's important because what you're spending now, you won't have to spend later. And I always hate to see people go with a build that they think is so cost effective, but a
Right.
year down the road, they've got all these repairs and things that they need to do. So we want people to be happy with their decision years from now and still have that asset and be proud of it.
Oh yeah, I definitely think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to pay a little bit more for your house in the beginning than to, pay a lot more over time in different things that fall apart or have to get a new house entirely, which I do know has happened to some people where like it's just not built well at all and you have to start all over. So,
Mhm. And all of our inspections then go to the cloud. So as code evolves, we're able to actually go back if any adjustments need to be made in what it was certified to. So I think that's important too, as this
oh,
is an
cool.
evolving industry. People can see where their plumbing fell and how it was
Mhm.
insulated and really progress with the industry as it evolves.
That's awesome. That's really great. That's cool. So if anyone wants to sort of like learn more about like what you're doing and like either with the tiny house communities themselves or the tiny homes, what's the best way for them to sort of like reach out to you?
I would say visit our website, and then there's contact information for both entities. So Tiny Estates, which is tiny-estates.com,
Mhm.
or tinyestates.net, both will traffic you to that for the communities. And then Atomic Homes and the contact feature will take you to our dealership and our team for the sales side. So you can actually go on the website, configure your own tiny home, pick different siding and windows, and play around and get some ideas of what you're looking for, and then reach out and go from there for financing.
Cool. That's awesome. Seems like a pretty easy process too, so that's great. And I really appreciate you sort of taking the time to chat with me about sort of like your backstory, but also just what you guys have coming up with the new communities and just sort of like the quality that you guys put out for the tiny homes and just advice for people. So I know that anyone watching is going to find it really helpful and hopefully they reach out to you and move into the new spot.
Yes,
I'm,
we'd love to have them.
awesome. Cool. So thank you so much. And all the links to everything that you're doing will be they'll be in the video description so they can reach out to you directly just through the video description and go from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Abby. All right, that was my conversation with Abby. I really appreciate Abby taking the time to chat with us and talk about sort of their experience of going tiny, moving into the tiny house community space, and then now on the manufacturing and sort of like selling build side of tiny houses as well. So I really encourage you guys to reach out to Abby. They answered 2 questions for you: who should build your tiny house and where you should put it. So I encourage you guys to reach out to them. Their email address is in the video description for this video, and then you also can click the links to their website, which I have listed. It'll show you the tiny houses that they have available now. And it'll also show you the tiny houses that they have in general, their models, custom builds, that sort of thing. And also, since it is currently May, you have 2 weeks left to sort of like take advantage of their spring sale. So you get 10% off of any new sort of new build, any new models, and then you get 15% off existing inventory in their shop as well too. So please do take the time to check those things out. And thank you so much again, Abby. And I hope that you guys can find your new home. I hope you find a new tiny house like in them as a builder, and also your new location as well, either in Florida or in Pennsylvania. So again, if you're new to the channel, please take time to subscribe. It helps me out so much. It helps me continue to create great content and have these awesome conversations with people and bring you guys more information. Let me know what you want to see. Please drop a comment. Let me know if you want to learn what you want to learn. If you think there's someone else I should have on the channel, I'd love to hear from you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. And then also tap notification bell so you find out when I drop new videos. I drop new videos every single week, and I'll keep bringing you guys great content. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.